the realm is far more rural and subsistence level, far less overtly wealthy, and far less populous. Though Elminster is of the firm opinion that if they, or the Zentarim, were ever foolish enough to invade it, they might well be humbled by the Halruans. Halruaa Today. Ere the Spellplague hit, Halruaan elders, through the many Halruaan wizards who'd mastered the divination school who advised them, had brief warnings that the goddess Mystra and the god Azuth were swiftly and energetically preparing their servitors and the weave itself by checking and bolstering existing anchors and establishing new ones for some calamity. Though some elders were as reluctant to change the status quo as most conservative authorities are, others were spurred to make magical preparations of their own, fetching out long-disused mythal experiments and revising the force web spells of the ancient Netherese archwizard Lady Sheev Marandral, used by that mage to spin temporary flying cradles for Netherese buildings rather than permanent flying cities, as she herself didn't want to live in a flying city. These Halruaan elders hoped to create a giant force web, a spider web-like magical construct, rather like a mobile missile to encircle the kingdom and some of the air above it. What they lacked was time enough to put in place enough spell nodes under the ground of Halruaa to bring a stable layer of the surface of the realm within the force web, and enough cooperation among the most powerful spellcasters of Halruaa to reliably plane shift the force web as opposed to flying it around Toril. They were still busily at work when the Spellplague hit, bringing a huge loss of life and widespread madness among the gifted, who make up fully a third of Halruaa's population. It also caused the collapse of many structures that incorporated magic, rather than having just used magic in the construction, notably bridges, which Halruaans kept light by the use of frequently renewed magical levitation spells. This hammer blow would swiftly cause a fundamental shift in Halruaan attitudes, with much mistrust of magic for the first time, and a turning away from casually relying on it for mundane daily life matters. Yet at the time, there was no time to reflect on the role of magic or what anyone thought about it. They were caught up in just trying to stay alive in the wild magic heart of chaos. Shocked and horrified by what was happening, the conservative elders turned in anguish to those who'd been feverishly preparing and pitched in, even as Halruaans everywhere descended into madness all around them. And they managed it. The Halruaan elders worked the mightiest magic of their lives, plucking their realm out of Toril and into Abeir. Specifically, the wild alpine uplands of one of the largest continents of Abeir, Sheer, plane-shifting a force web-cradled majority of the non-mountainous lands of the Land of Magic. Among Halruaans, this frantic effort to save their realm is remembered as the Great Sacrifice, for the great numbers of Halruaan elders who gave their lives to guide and power the titanic magical weaving, burning themselves out and in some cases willingly pouring their life force into the force web. There is a persistent belief among Halruaans that the god Azuth was so quiet during the Sundering because he bolstered and supported Halruaans during their time of dire need, and was himself seared and diminished in so doing. True or not, Halruaans can't escape the grim fact that more than 8 in 10 gifted citizens died or went incurably mad during the first 10 days of the Spellplague, and by the time Halruaa came to rest in Abeir, almost all of its elders had perished or were helpless droolers, as one weeping widow put it.
If you're enjoying this video, leave me a like, subscribe, and if you want to be notified whenever I've got a new video, please hit the bell icon. And if you want a steady stream of Realms lore, join my Patreon, Ed Greenwood on Patreon, and consider becoming a protector of the realms. Your support makes these videos possible.
As far as most mortals of Toril were concerned, Halruaa disappeared during the Spellplague. It went away, leaving scarred earth and bare rock in the basin amid the mountains where the land of magic flourished. Perhaps destroyed utterly, perhaps not, but gone. To Halruans, they went through a brief hell ride that made everyone sick and dizzy, ruptured the land and plunged them into a colder climate and thinner air. Water suddenly became scarcer, and salt water and a seacoast, things of the past, and most of their buildings and all of their roads were shattered. The majority of the oldest and highest-ranking Halruan spellcasters were messily dead or dying in raving, spell-hurling madness that made them dangerous to all nearby, and the rest were barely functioning, too brain-smitten to work spells for days, in some cases months. And everyone was profoundly changed. Magic no longer meant reliable, cozy comfort. It was now dangerous, not to be trusted, a random killer. Unreliable. Magic meant fear, and many Halruans descended into paranoia, while others grimly decided no magic was the only road their lives could continue on henceforth. The only bright faces of their deliverance to Abeir was that they found themselves in a region of wild herds of marauding predators, wyverns, perytons, and giant bats, that were largely destroyed by their arrival, not in the lap of some populous, sentient realm that might have made war on them or sought to enslave them. And that arrival was in the Abeiran spring, not the depths of its winter, so the dazed Halruans had time to explore their immediate surroundings and take stock of what they had. Sensibly, they turned their attention to the necessary basics of securing drinking water, growing crops, building shelters, and so kept most of the surviving Halruan populace alive during the harsh winter that followed. However, the land of magic had become very much a frontier realm of hard-scrabble survival, with only a slow and secretive return to magic. The few casters who dared had to risk their own sanity, and many collapsed, unable to hold their concentration and will properly through working. And attacks from fearful fellow Halruans who feared what their magical meddling might cause over the decades that followed. The Halruaa that was snatched back into Toril in the second sundering, no great force web this time, nor anyone deliberately moving the realm anywhere, just a bewildering, twisting chaos that ended in a dazed anew return to Toril as Abeir shed and Toril clawed back the shreds of Halruaa. Was a humbler Halruaa, far less mighty in magic than before, and no longer waist-deep in enchanted items and any habit of using spells for bathing, cooking, dental work, or washing clothes. On a map, the Halruaa of today is almost identical to pre-Spellplague Halruaa, but on the ground, the realm is far more rural and subsistence level, far less overtly wealthy, and far less populous. It lacks an army, but has mounted militias, and they're equipped with Thunderwave and Magic Missile and Lightning Bolt wands. It has archlords, reclusive elders of both genders, who live in mountain caverns where they stockpile spellbooks and magic items, including automatons that can defend the realm if it's ever invaded. And it has septars, local mayors who govern and who command the meager magical resources of their communities for defense and law-keeping. Magic is respected now, not trusted, and used carefully, not casually. Halruaa has renewed its mining and making heirloom wine, and through its envoys has dealt with the open Lord Laeral in distant Waterdeep, and the High Aruk of Ormpur and the lords of the Tashalar much nearer, to ensure steady markets for vintages. The land of magic has been humbled. It is now a land of magic, not a place to challenge Thay or the Zhentarim. Though Alminster is of the firm opinion that if either of those aggressors were ever foolish enough to invade it, they might well be humbled by the Halruans. And that, he added, is before we Weave Masters add our weight to their spell humblings. Hi, welcome back to REALMSPEAK, and this time around, we're doing this. Mordenkainen, the senior member of the Circle of Eight. Never, please, never, if you value your life, call him Mordy, okay? Just don't. Mordenkainen. Many spells are named for Mordenkainen, and Elminster had to nurse him back to health after he was left a bit nutso. But that's Greyhawk history, so let's allow him to tell that story if he wishes. He probably doesn't want to.